Want to thank Simply Seattle before we get started. www.simplyseattle.com. They have the best stuff. They are the best people. You can use code MOLLYWHOP15 to save 15% off your order. MOLLYWHOP15. It's a great deal from great people. There's a link in the description. I cannot thank Simply Seattle enough for their support. You might hear a fly in the background. I've been looking for my buddy all day. He's somewhere. He's pretty high up, though. Anyway, Mariners lose 3-2. They fall to 69 and 68 on the season, and they lose 2 of 3 to the Los Angeles Angels. Scoring plays, sure. Taylor Ward hits a leadoff homer, 1-0. Luke Raley answers back with a solo homer in the top of the second to tie it at 1. Victor Robles hits a sacrifice fly to right in the third that makes it 2-1. Anthony Rendon in the fifth inning singles home Ward and Zach Neto. 3-2. Mariners lose. I think it's over. I think it's basically over. And it's not over necessarily because of math. And that math plays a big part in it. But it's also over just because there's just no evidence whatsoever that this team is good enough. The only positive that you have today is your bullpen was good. And you had a couple decent offensive performances. Josh Rojas got on 3 times. Luke Raley hits the homer. But he also makes a massive base running mistake. And I know I'm so glad that glad's not even the right word. He owned up to the mistake. For those who missed it, doesn't slide on a play at the plate. Huge. Oh, you don't know that he's safe, but it's a lot easier to picture it in your head. But outside of that, it's another just awful offensive performance. And your starting pitcher wasn't very good either. Bryce Miller did not have his best stuff, nor his best command. But you look at these standings right now. You look and you see a team that is 6 games back of the AL West. They were 10 games up not that long ago. Remember the Seinfeld where George is pretending to be an architect? I know there's a few of them, but he's telling I think it's the episode where Jerry does the race where he says something along the lines of built some building. And he goes, didn't take that long either. Really didn't take that long to blow a 10-game lead, and not just blow it, but it's so far in the past that a lot of people would say you probably shouldn't teach it in schools. What a stupid country. That's as political as I'll get on here. Probably. We'll see how November goes. But you are 69 and 68 with 25 games to go. Houston is 75 and 62 with 20 games to go. So let's say Houston goes 12 and 13. Okay? 12 and 13. And let's say that the Mariners don't sweep the Astros. Well, it doesn't matter in this scenario. All you got to do is win one, get the tiebreaker. 75 and 62. Let's say they go 12 and 13. That would put them at 87 and 75, which means that the Seattle Mariners would need to go 18 and 7. What on God's beautiful green earth tells you that this baseball team that you have watched since late June, what tells you that the Seattle Mariners are good enough to go 18 and 7? Now, you can't completely rule it out because the starting pitching has been so good for the overwhelming majority of the year. But there's other things. You can't just rely on starting pitching. I think this season is a perfect example of that. What in the world tells you that this team can go 18 and 7? And hey, based on how Houston's played lately, what in the world tells you that they can go 12 and 13? They dominated the Royals. I know there were some close games there, but they were the better team for the well overwhelming majority of that series. What tells you that Houston can go 12 and 13? And really, we're talking about 12 and 10 and 3 losses in a row to the Mariners. But what in the world tells you that's going to happen? You have zero margin for error now. Before the series started, I said you had to win 7 of 9 series. You got to go 8 for 8 now. You got to go 8 for 8 and you got to get some sweeps. Just winning series isn't good enough anymore. 8 games over 500 is no longer good enough. But it's pointless to talk about the math because you're literally watching this baseball team right now and you know that they can't do this. And sure, you watched the team in the middle of June or whenever it was. I can't even keep track of this stuff anymore. That looked really, really good. But I don't think that team's coming back, folks. There's just too much evidence of it not being here. That team went and bought cigarettes and is not coming back. It left you. You have been orphaned by the Seattle Mariners. And, we'll talk a lot about it after the season because Lord knows I'm going to be making a lot of videos. But this just can't be acceptable. This is a large sample size of being mediocre. At this point, they're closer to third place in the division than they are first place. The Texas Rangers are 10 games back at 65 and 72. And the Mariners have a 4-game lead on them. I go over to my grandma's every day. She lives about 9 houses away from me. And we talk about the games and, sometimes we watch them together. Usually we watch like a third of them and then I have to head home because I'm working or. But whenever I come over, I always update her on the White Sox because I'm just fascinated by that team. I'm fascinated by how unbelievably bad the Chicago White Sox are. And with another loss today, they are now 31 and 107. And you know what? I envy them. Because You know that this season is lost and over. And not only that, you knew this season was lost and over in April. You didn't get put through this crap for 4 months, closer to 5 now. Closer to 4. Whatever. You know what I mean. I'd so much rather have that. I've talked about my fear of death on this video or YouTube thing, whatever we call it, a few times. And it's why I don't find horror movies scary. Or I didn't when I didn't have any fear of death whatsoever. I do now. But back then, horror movies didn't scare me because, okay, you're dead. It's not scary. But the really good horror movies, the really, really good ones, aren't just those slashers where they jump scare you and they stab you. The really good ones are the ones that build tension and that, they not only is your life in peril, it's your family's life in peril and your friends' lives in peril and the loved ones, your significant other. Seattle Mariners are a perfect horror movie because they have built this tension. And even if you know how it's going to end based on, I don't know, 47 years of existence for the Mariners. I'm only 41. I'm very young. I'm going to live forever. Even if you know how it's going to end, it still scares the crap out of you. I so appreciate your guys' support. But man, oh man, I don't blame anybody. Not even a little bit. Here's some wonderful promotion. I don't blame you one bit if you don't watch these videos anymore. If you watch them for the catharsis, if you watch them to support me, that's great. But if you watch them because you're optimistic about the Seattle Mariners right now, this is not going to be a great channel. I'm not going to be negative for the sake of being negative. I'm going to be negative because, look, I'd appreciate you hitting like on the video. I'd appreciate you subscribing. Be back tomorrow. We'll have another Mile Y enthusiast chat this week. Man.